Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Stella walked through the doors of Carter Enterprises, holding Max's hand, her heart racing and a knot in her stomach growing stronger with every step. She knew bringing her son to work was completely against the rules, but that day she had no choice. She pressed her badge to her chest, looked around, and when she didn't see anyone watching, she quickly pulled Max behind the reception desk. "Stay right here, okay? Quiet, hidden, just play," she whispered, tucking his little backpack into the corner. "And for heaven's sake, don't touch anything, Max." Max nodded, swinging his legs as he pulled out his notebook and colored pencils. The plan seemed to work for exactly 2 minutes, until the phone rang. "Carter Enterprises. Good morning." She answered automatically. Adjusting the headset, "Stella, transfer this call to the 8th floor now," barked Director Thompson's sharp voice. "Yes, sir," she replied, reaching for the transfer panel. That's when she noticed a tiny, curious finger moving straight toward a flashing red button. "No, Max, don't touch that, don't." But it was too late. The loudspeaker came on with a sharp buzz, echoing through the entire lobby, and then the next second, "If that contract doesn't close today, I'm firing half the marketing team." The director's voice boomed, live, loud, and clear for everyone to hear. "Oh no, no, no." Stella practically dove onto the panel, hitting every button she could find, her fingers trembling, palms sweaty, almost yanking the phone cable out. "Turn it off, please, turn it off." People froze. The security guard stood with his coffee halfway to his mouth. An HR rep dropped her paperwork. The whole lobby turned into an audience. Stella yanked the phone cable so hard she nearly took the monitor with it. The sound finally stopped. She was gasping for air, shaking, pale, hands in her hair, staring at Max with wide eyes, stunned, unable to believe what had just happened. And then the most dreaded sound in the universe filled the air. "What is going on here?" Victoria's sharp voice sliced through the entire lobby. Stella's blood ran cold. She turned slowly, and there stood Victoria, the reception manager, wearing a flawless white blazer, her high heels clicking like a judge's gavel, hair pulled back in a bun so tight it looked like it hurt. Victoria's eyes went wide when she saw Max sitting there with a notebook in his hands, holding a colored pencil. What is this ridiculous child doing here? The word ridiculous hit Stella in the chest like a punch. Don't talk about him like that," she said, stepping in front of her son immediately. Victoria marched closer, crossed her arms, and exploded. "This is not a daycare, Stella. This isn't a playground. This is a company, you irresponsible woman. Do you have any idea what you just did? How many rules you broke?" I swear it was an accident." Stella tried to explain, her voice shaking, shielding Max behind her legs. "Accident?" Victoria scoffed, laughing mockingly. "That little brat hit a button and almost ruined one of our biggest contracts." That's when Stella lifted her chin, eyes teary but firm. "It wasn't him," she said, voice trembling but determined. "It was me. My hand slipped and hit the button. It was my fault, and if someone needs to be blamed here, it's me." Victoria's eyes widened. "That's a flat-out lie. I saw him press it, everyone saw, and he's just a child." Stella snapped, holding back tears, but now with a fire burning in her chest. "He's not the problem, Victoria. I am, and if you want to fire me, fine. But don't you ever raise your voice at him again. Ever." The entire lobby went silent. People froze at the elevators. Others pretended to look at their phones. Even the coffee machine seemed to stop working. Victoria crossed her arms, took a deep breath, squinted, and then dramatically ripped Stella's badge from her chest. "Perfect. You are officially fired. And I want you out now." Stella's chest sank. Her knees went weak. She gripped Max tighter, took a deep breath so she wouldn't collapse right there. She looked around, hoping for any trace of empathy or support, but all she saw were turned faces, people pretending not to notice. She squeezed her son's hand, swallowed hard, and lifted her chin. "Come on, Max," she said, holding on to the little dignity she had left. "We don't need this place." The automatic doors opened, and at that exact moment, as if the universe had just been waiting, the rain poured down. Max looked up and said, with that honesty only a child has, "Mommy, is the sky crying with us?" Stella closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and forced a smile, holding back her tears. "No, sweetheart," she answered, swallowing the lump in her throat. "The sky is just trying to see if we know how to swim." What she didn't know was that the storm wasn't an ending. It was just the beginning. Cold rain hit Stella's face like tiny needles as she walked out of Carter Enterprises with Max in her arms. The 5-year-old felt heavier than she remembered, but her arms were trembling more from nerves than from tiredness. "Mommy, why are you walking so fast?" Max asked, holding tightly around her neck as she hurried down the wet sidewalk. "We're just heading home, sweetheart." That wasn't true. Stella had no idea where she was going. Her thoughts were spinning in desperate circles as rain ran down her hair, stuck to her forehead, and blurred her vision. "Fired. I've been fired." The words repeated in her head like a broken record. 6 months working at that reception desk, 6 months arriving on time, smiling at grumpy clients, organizing schedules for people who barely knew her name, and now, "Hey, Mommy," Max said, loudly enough for a few people nearby to hear. "Is that mean lady still in there with that feather duster hair?" A woman with a red umbrella walking past gave a quiet chuckle. "Max, lower your voice," Stella whispered, but she couldn't hide a small smile at the corner of her mouth. "But it's true," Max insisted, waving his little hands. It looked like she stuck her finger in the outlet, and her hair went like poof. He made a big explosion gesture that made a young man waiting for the bus laugh out loud. "Max," Stella tried to sound serious, but her son's innocence was impossible to resist, and she talked like this. "Blah, blah, blah." Max mimicked Victoria's high-pitched voice with an exaggerated face, which made even a man in a suit laugh. For a moment, Stella almost forgot about the situation, almost until reality hit again, like a cold slap. The rent, $800, due next week. Stella did the math in her head. Exactly $215 in her bank account. Her credit card had been maxed out for 2 weeks. And now, no job. "Mommy, are you okay?" Max touched her face with his little wet hand. "You look sad again." No. Mommy's just thinking about how we're going to survive." Max's school cost $300 a month. Her car payment was $180. Health insurance, $250. Food, electricity, water, gas. Stella felt a tightness in her chest that almost made her stop walking. How am I going to find another job fast enough? The rain was getting heavier, turning into a real downpour. Stella looked around, trying to find somewhere to stay dry. Her clothes were soaked through, and Max was starting to shiver in her arms. "Mommy, I'm getting wet." "I know, sweetheart. Let's find a place to wait for the rain to stop." She spotted a red and white striped awning across the street. A food truck. The smell of hamburgers and French fries floated in the air, mixed with the scent of rain on hot pavement. Stella crossed the street, almost running, dodging puddles. By the time she got under the awning, she was out of breath and completely soaked. "Wow," Max shook his head, sending little drops of water everywhere. "Now we're like 2 little fish out of the tank." Stella set Max down and started trying to dry him with her own wet shirt. It didn't help. Her hands were shaking. She couldn't tell if it was from the cold or from the growing panic inside her. That's when she heard fast footsteps approaching. A tall man, wearing a dark suit soaked through, ran to take cover under the same awning. "Wow, what a storm," the man said, brushing his wet hair back. Stella glanced at him quickly. He looked sharp, probably in his mid-32nd, and even with his suit wet, it still looked expensive, most likely some corporate executive. "Hi," Max waved cheerfully at the stranger. "Did you turn into a little fish in the rain too?" The man smiled, surprised by the boy's friendliness. "I think I did." "And what about you?" he asked. "Me and Mommy are runaway fish," Max replied excitedly. "We ran away from that big building over there." "Max," Stella murmured, embarrassed. "Why does your hair look like a wet dog?" Max asked with the pure honesty only a 5-year-old has. The man laughed, a warm, genuine laugh. "You've got a good eye. I probably do look like a soaked stray dog right now." "Yes, just like Buddy, our neighbor's dog. When he gets a bath." Stella felt embarrassed, but the man seemed genuinely amused by Max. "And what's your name, young man?" "Max. And this is my mommy, Stella. She's the best mommy in the world." "Nice to meet you, Max." "Nice to meet you, Stella." The man held out his hand. "I'm Nathan." "Nice to meet you," Stella answered softly, shaking his hand. "Do you work around here?" Nathan asked, trying to keep the conversation going. Max answered before Stella had a chance to say anything. "Mommy used to work in that building right there. But today, a mean lady with feather duster hair fired her. Stella's face turned red with embarrassment. Max, you don't have to say that. Oh. Nathan looked at her with a curious expression. Trouble at work? Stella hesitated. There was something kind in his voice. No judgment. Well, I used to work there. I got let go today. What Stella didn't know was that Nathan Carter was the millionaire CEO of Carter Enterprises, the same company that had just fired her, and neither of them had any idea that the storm that had brought them under that awning would change both of their lives forever. Nathan Carter arrived at the office the next morning with a strange feeling in his chest. All night long, he couldn't stop thinking about that conversation under the food truck's awning. Max's honesty, Stella's quiet strength, the way she said, "I got let go today," with both sadness and dignity. It had stayed with him. He went straight up to the 30th floor, where his executive office was. His assistant, Evelyn, was already waiting with the day's schedule and a pile of reports. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. You have a board meeting at 9. Then, Evelyn," Nathan interrupted, taking off the same wet jacket from the day before. "Was anyone let go from the company yesterday?" Evelyn blinked, surprised by the unexpected question. "Well, let me check." She tapped quickly on her tablet. "Yes, sir. A receptionist from the 12th floor was let go yesterday afternoon." Nathan's stomach dropped. "What's her name?" "Stella Carter, sir." "Kind of ironic. Same last name as yours." Nathan felt like he'd been punched. That kind woman he met in the rain, the loving mother of that sweet little boy, worked at his company, and she had been fired. Who approved the termination? Victoria Reynolds, the 12th floor manager. Nathan knew Victoria, a capable woman but known for being strict, sometimes harsh with her team. He had always overlooked it because she delivered results. But now, Evelyn, cancel all my morning meetings. I need to go down to the 12th floor. "But sir, the board can wait. This is more important." Nathan took the elevator down, his jaw tight. The more he thought about it, the more upset he became. Stella had told him she brought her son because she had no other choice. Anyone with a heart would understand that a single mother sometimes faces impossible situations. The elevator doors opened on the 12th floor. Nathan walked straight to the front desk, where a temporary receptionist was answering the phone with a bored look on her face. "Where's Victoria Reynolds?" "In her office, sir. But she's in a meeting." Nathan didn't stop. He knocked once on the glass door and walked in without waiting. "Nathan!" Victoria stood up quickly, clearly surprised. "What a nice surprise. I was just reviewing the reports." "Sit down, Victoria." His tone made Victoria swallow hard. She slowly sat back down, trying to read his serious expression. "I want you to explain exactly why Stella Carter was let go yesterday." Victoria blinked. "Stella Carter, the receptionist. Well, she committed a serious violation of company policy. She brought a child to work and caused an incident." "What incident?" "The child pressed the speakerphone button during an important call and exposed confidential information to the entire office. It was extremely embarrassing." And why did she bring the child?" Victoria hesitated. "Well, she said the babysitter didn't show up." "But that's not a reason." "Not a reason?" Nathan leaned forward. "Victoria, do you have children?" "No, but then maybe you don't understand the impossible situation a single mother can be in." Stella had two choices: miss work or bring her child. She chose responsibility and came in. But the rules are clear. We don't allow children at the workplace. Rules are meant to serve people, Victoria, not the other way around. Nathan stood up. "I want to see her personnel file." "Now." Victoria nervously typed on the computer and turned the screen toward Nathan. What he saw made him even angrier. Stella Carter, 6 months at the company, 0 absences, 0 tardiness. Performance reviews excellent, excellent, excellent. Nathan scrolled down, reading the comments from her previous supervisors. Dedicated and responsible employee, always polite with clients, even the difficult ones, extremely reliable and well-organized. Clients often praise her service. "Victoria," Nathan said slowly, trying to stay calm, "you fired an outstanding employee, a mother trying to balance work and parenting, someone who never caused any problems until yesterday. But she broke. She made a human mistake in an impossible situation." Nathan slammed his hand on the table. "And instead of showing any understanding, you humiliated her in front of everyone." Victoria turned pale. I was just following protocol." "Protocol?" Nathan gave a dry laugh. "Do you know what our most important protocol is, Victoria? Treating our employees like human beings Nathan started pacing the room, thinking fast. Evelyn told me several clients already called asking for Stella. Apparently, she was very well liked. An employee with perfect attendance, glowing reviews, and great customer relations. And you fired her over an accident. It was more than just an accident. No, it was exactly an accident. Nathan turned to face her. A 5-year-old pushed a button. It happens. And instead of handling it with maturity, you turned it into a public scene. Victoria swallowed hard, clearly realizing she'd made a serious mistake. Nathan, maybe we can reconsider. No. Victoria, I'll reconsider. You've lost the right to make decisions about Stella Carter. Nathan picked up the internal phone. Evelyn, I need you to locate Stella Carter right away. Phone, address, any contact info we have. It's urgent. He hung up and looked at Victoria with an expression she had never seen before. Victoria, let me be clear. Stella Carter is coming back to this company today, and if you have a problem with that, maybe you're the one who should start looking for another job. But she broke the rules. And you broke something much more important. Trust. A good manager protects their team, not kicks them when they're down. The phone rang. Nathan answered. Sir, I found Stella Carter's phone number and her address too. Perfect, Evelyn. I want you to prepare a reinstatement contract, same salary, but add a special clause. In case of family emergencies, employees may bring their children to work as long as it doesn't interfere with operations. Yes, sir. Anything else? Yes. I want you to find a room on the 12th floor and turn it into a temporary kids' space toys, books, drawing supplies, for emergency use. Nathan hung up and headed to the door. Where are you going? Victoria asked, still stunned. To fix a mistake, one that never should have happened. Nathan paused at the door and turned back one last time. Victoria, Stella Carter is an excellent employee who was going through a tough moment. Instead of offering support, you chose to shame her. That says a lot about what kind of leader you are. I suggest you think about that. As he waited for the elevator, Nathan felt a determination he hadn't felt in a long time. This wasn't just about fixing an injustice. It was about doing the right thing, and deep down, he knew he wanted to see Stella and Max again. He wanted to see that genuine smile. Hear the little boy's curious questions. Feel that rare lightness he had experienced under the food truck awning. The next morning, Stella woke up with a knot in her stomach that had started to feel permanent. At 3:00 the morning, she was still browsing job websites on her old laptop, which kept freezing every 5 minutes. The options were discouraging. Receptionist with at least 2 years' experience, retail associate available on weekends, call center work that barely covered rent. Mommy, why are you up so early? Max stood in the bedroom doorway, still in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. I was just looking some things up, sweetheart. Looking up how we won't end up on the street. Stella closed the laptop and forced a smile. How about we have some breakfast? As she was making toast with the last of the jam in the fridge, the phone rang. Hello, Stella. This is Linda from the temp agency. I've got a short gig for today if you're interested. Stella felt a wave of relief. Absolutely. What is it? Window cleaning at a cafe downtown. 8 hours. $80. It's not much. But I'll take it, Stella answered before Linda could finish. 2 hours later, Stella was standing in front of Seattle's finest coffee, a charming little cafe with huge windows that definitely needed cleaning. The uniform from the agency was twice her size, making her look like a kid wearing adult clothes. At least it's clean, she muttered to herself, tying her hair back in a ponytail. The cafe manager, a short man with a mustache, gave quick instructions. Windows. Inside and out. Cleaning supplies are over there. I need it done by 5. Stella grabbed the spray bottle and squeegee, took a deep breath, and started. It wasn't exactly her dream job, but $80 meant food on the table for a few days. She was halfway through the second window when she heard a familiar voice from the other side of the glass. Excuse me, but Stella. She almost dropped the spray bottle. Inside the cafe, looking at her with total surprise, was Nathan, the same well-dressed man from the food truck. Now in a sharp navy blue suit, holding a cup of coffee. Stella felt her face flush. There she was, dressed like a scarecrow, cleaning windows. And who shows up? The only man who'd been kind to her lately. Hi, she said through the glass, giving an awkward wave with her gloved hand. Nathan stepped out of the cafe and walked up to her on the sidewalk. What are you doing here? Working, Stella replied, trying to sound casual, as she kept spraying the glass, cleaning windows. It's honest work, she said, a little defensive. Nathan looked at her for a moment, as if processing what he was seeing. "Stella, I need to talk to you. I'm kind of busy right now." She kept scrubbing the glass, avoiding eye contact. "It's about your old job." Stella paused. "My old job? You were let go from Carter Enterprises, right?" "Yes. So?" Nathan ran his hand through his hair, clearly nervous. "Stella, I'm Nathan Carter, owner of Carter Enterprises." The squeegee slipped from Stella's hand and hit the ground with a soft thud. "You're what?" "The CEO of the company you worked for, and I'm here to offer your job back." Stella blinked several times, like she was trying to solve a math problem that didn't make sense. "This some kind of joke?" "It's not a joke. I looked into what happened. Victoria Reynolds had no right to fire you. You were an excellent employee." Stella let out a bitter laugh. "Excellent? I caused a huge scene. You made a human mistake in a tough situation. Any mother would have done the same. Look, I appreciate the kindness." But Stella bent down to pick up the squeegee, stalling to gather her thoughts. "I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's fairness." "It is charity." Stella stood up, holding the squeegee like a sword. "The big rich CEO feels sorry for the poor lady cleaning windows and decides to play hero." "Stella, that's not what this is, isn't it?" She crossed her arms, pride louder than need. "You show up here, find me at my worst, and decide to save me? No thanks, Nathan. You are the most stubborn person I've ever met. And you're arrogant. You think you can fix other people's lives with a snap of your fingers." That's when a high-pitched voice cut through the argument. "Mom!" Stella turned and saw Max running down the sidewalk, slipping away from the neighbor who was watching him. "Max, what are you doing here? Aunt Clara said you were working here." Max stopped in front of them, out of breath but excited. "Hi, wet dog hair man." Nathan laughed. "Hey Max, is my hair better today?" "Yeah. Now it looks like real people hair." Max looked from Stella to Nathan, then back again, with that curious look only kids have. "Mister, are you my mom's boyfriend?" Stella turned bright red. "What?" "You were talking like people who date on television." Nathan couldn't hold back a laugh, a real, genuine laugh he hadn't had in years. Stella, embarrassed, still felt something warm in her chest when she saw his smile. "No, Max," Nathan said, still smiling. "I'm not your mom's boyfriend, but I am a friend." "Oh." Max looked slightly disappointed. "You seem nice. Mom deserves a nice boyfriend." "Max," Stella wanted the ground to swallow her whole. "What, Mom?" "It's true. You're always sad when you're alone." Nathan looked at Stella with a softer expression. "Max is right. You deserve good things. I don't need anyone telling me what I deserve." "Mom, why are you mad at the nice man?" Max asked, confused. "I'm not mad, sweetheart." "Yes, you are. You're making that face you make when you don't want help." Nathan crouched down to Max's level. "Your mom is proud. That's a good thing, but sometimes it can make things harder, just like when she won't borrow money from Grandma." "Max." Stella was mortified. Nathan stood up, looking her in the eye. "Stella, let me make a different offer. I already said no. If you agree to come back, you can bring Max anytime you need. We've set up a special area at the office just for him, with toys, books, everything a kid might need." Max's eyes widened. "Really? I can go to work with Mom?" "Yes," Nathan said. "And there's more. You'll get a raise. Not out of pity, but because I found out you were being underpaid for the quality of work you did." Stella opened her mouth to argue, but Nathan continued. "And if you still think it's charity, you can work part-time as a customer relations consultant. Several clients asked about you over the past 2 days. They asked about me?" "They did. Seems you had a special gift for handling difficult people." Stella looked at Max, who stared back at her with hopeful eyes. "Please, Mom, that way I can play while you work." "Max, it's not that simple." "Mom." Max held her hand with both of his small ones. "The man's being nice. And you said nice people deserve a chance." Nathan waited quietly, watching Stella wrestle between pride and necessity. She sighed. "I need to think about it." "Of course. But Stella," Nathan took a card from his pocket, "don't think too long. The offer won't be there forever." Max snatched the card before Stella could and read it aloud. "Nathan Carter, CEO." "Wow, Mom, he's the boss of the bosses." "Yeah," Stella whispered, finally grasping the weight of what was happening. "So," Nathan asked, "can I expect an answer by tomorrow?" Stella looked at her oversized cleaning uniform, then at Max's hopeful smile, and finally at Nathan, standing there patiently. Maybe, just maybe. It was time to set her pride aside. By tomorrow, she agreed, and for the first time in 2 days, she felt a spark of hope. Stella ran her hand through her hair for the 10th time in 5 minutes as she waited for the elevator at Carter Enterprises. It was her first morning back, and nerves were getting the best of her. She held Max's hand, who swung his brand new backpack filled with toys and coloring books. "Mom, are you nervous?" Max asked, his big, curious eyes watching her. "A little, sweetheart." "Why?" "The nice man said we can work together." The nice man, that's how Max had referred to Nathan since yesterday. Stella couldn't stop thinking about that conversation outside the cafe, the way Nathan had laughed at Max's unfiltered questions, the space he'd made just for her son. The elevator doors opened on the 12th floor. Stella took a deep breath. "Ready?" she asked Max. "Ready," he replied, excited. The first thing Stella noticed was that Victoria wasn't at the front desk. Instead, Evelyn, Nathan's executive assistant, was waiting with a warm smile. "Stella, so glad to have you back." Evelyn reached out her hand. "I'm Evelyn, Mr. Carter's assistant. He asked me to show you the changes we made." "Changes?" Evelyn pointed to a glass door next to the reception area. Inside, Stella saw a cozy corner with a colorful rug, a small bookshelf, a low table with crayons and paper, and even a few toys. "Mr. Carter had it set up last night. It's Max's space." Max's eyes lit up like stars. "Really? All this is for me?" "Just for you," Evelyn confirmed. "There's even a special snack in the mini fridge." Max ran off to explore his new little world while Evelyn walked Stella through the updates at reception. New computer, upgraded phone, and... "Look," she pointed to a golden nameplate on the desk. "Stella Carter, Client Services Coordinator." "Coordinator?" Stella's eyes widened. "Immediate promotion. Mr. Carter's orders." At that moment, Nathan himself appeared in the hallway, walking toward the front desk with a folder in hand and a friendly smile. "Good morning, Stella. How are you feeling?" "Good. Thank you for all of this." She gestured toward the updated space. "T.O. Nathan." Max ran from his new corner and threw his arms around Nathan's legs. "Hey, champ." Nathan crouched down. "Do you like your new spot?" "I love it. There's even Superman." Max held up a little action figure he'd found. Stella watched the scene with her heart full. Seeing Nathan treat Max with such warmth moved her more than she expected. "Nathan," she began. "Just call me Nathan. We're all part of the same team here." By mid-morning, Stella had already settled into her new routine. The work was mostly the same, answering phones, welcoming clients, organizing schedules, but now with a fancy new title and a 40% pay raise. What she didn't expect was how often Nathan showed up at the front desk. 10 o'clock a.m. "Stella, just checking if the reports arrived." They were emailed directly to him. 11:30. "Just came to grab a water." He had a fridge in his office. 1 o'clock p.m. "Wanted to make sure everything's going smoothly." It clearly was. "Evelyn," Stella whispered as the assistant walked by the front desk. "Is it normal for Mr. Carter to come down here this often?" Evelyn gave her a knowing smile. "Honey, I've worked with Nathan Carter for 15 years. I've never seen him come down to this floor so many times. You must have some kind of magic." Meanwhile, Max was becoming the star of the office. In just 2 hours, he was already friends with at least 10 employees. "Aunt Julia." He waved to the woman from HR. "Want to see my Superman drawing?" "Of course, sweetie." "Mr. Antonio," he called out to the accountant walking by. "You look like a penguin in that suit." Instead of being offended, Antonio laughed so hard he nearly dropped his papers. "That kid is a delight," one employee told her colleague. He brightened up the whole place. Around dry. Null. M. Max had grown tired of coloring and decided to explore the hallway. Stella was busy with a client when she heard a familiar little voice. "Uncle Nathan! Uncle Nathan!" She turned and saw Max running down the hall toward Nathan, who was carrying a stack of documents. "Hey, Max, what's up? Let's play superheroes right now. I'm kind of busy. Please, just for a bit? You can be Superman, and I'll be Robin." Nathan looked around. The hallway was empty. Stella was far away. "Why not?" "All right, but just for a minute." "Yes." Max jumped with joy. "Now you have to crouch down and pretend you're flying." "Flying?" "Yeah, Superman flies." "Come on. Crouch, and stretch out your arms." Nathan, the millionaire CEO who ran a company of 200 people, crouched down in the hallway and stretched his arms out like he was flying. "Like this? Perfect. Now make the sound. Whoosh, whoosh," Nathan mumbled, feeling silly but also kind of amused. "Louder. Superman's not shy." "Whoosh," Nathan shouted, running crouched down the hallway after Max. Right at that moment, the elevator doors opened, and out stepped three men in suits, the Japanese investors scheduled for a meeting at 3:15. Nathan froze. There he was, the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, running hunched over in the hallway, making airplane noises. "Behave, old," one of the investors asked in English. Clearly confused, Max, completely unaware of the awkwardness, waved happily. "Hi, Uncle Nathan was being Superman with me. You want to play too?" The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan slowly stood up, his face red as a tomato, trying to recover a bit of dignity. "Gentlemen, I was just..." One of the investors, the oldest one, started to smile. Then he laughed. Within seconds, all three were laughing out loud. "Mr. Carter," the older man said in slow English, "in 40 years of business, I've never seen a CEO so human." "It's fun working in a company where the boss plays Superman," said another. "Shows you care about family and joy. That's rare in business." Nathan blinked, surprised by their positive reaction. "Max," he crouched down again, speaking to the boy. "These are the uncles from Japan. They came to talk about work." "Cool." Max waved. "Bye, uncles from Japan. Superman has to go back to the Fortress of Solitude." After the investors went into the meeting room, still laughing, Nathan walked back to reception, where Stella was waiting with an amused look on her face. "So, did Superman have an interesting meeting? You saw that?" Nathan ran a hand through his hair, embarrassed. "I did, and I filmed it." Stella held up her phone, smiling mischievously. "You didn't." "I did. Want to see?" Nathan tried to grab the phone, but Stella was quicker, running to the other side of the desk. "Stella, delete that. Never. It's too cute seeing the big CEO playing superhero. I was just being nice to your son. You were being adorable." They stared at each other for a moment, Stella holding the phone, Nathan trying to look stern, but both were smiling. "You know," Stella said softly, "Max has never had a male figure to play like that with." "Thank you." Nathan's expression softened. "He's a special kid." "He is. And you're special for seeing that." The moment was cut short by Max popping up between them. "Mom, Uncle Nathan, you're looking at each other like people in love on television again." Stella and Nathan quickly stepped apart. Faces flushed. "Max!" Stella exclaimed. "What? It's true." Max shrugged and went back to his little corner. Nathan cleared his throat. "Well, I need to head to my meeting." "Of course." But before walking away, he turned back. "Stella?" "Yes?" "Thanks for letting me play Superman. It's been a long time since I felt this light." And with that, he left, leaving Stella with a smile on her face and a strange feeling in her chest, a feeling that had everything to do with the way they'd been looking at each other lately. The next morning, Stella arrived at the office with Max bouncing excitedly beside her. The little boy had already settled into the new routine and treated his little corner like it was his personal kingdom. "Mom, today I'm going to draw a castle for Uncle Nathan," Max announced as he ran to his spot. "That's nice, sweetheart." Stella settled in at the front desk, turned on the computer, and started checking the morning emails. Everything was normal, nothing unusual. Until, "Good morning, Stella." She looked up and saw Nathan standing in front of the desk, holding a brown paper bag. "Good morning, Nathan. Is something wrong?" No. It's just that he held up the bag. "I picked up some cookies on my way to work. Got a few too many by mistake. Thought maybe Max likes cookies." Stella looked at him with a curious expression. "You bought cookies by mistake?" "Yeah, totally by accident. The lady at the bakery convinced me to get more than I meant to." Nathan placed the bag on the desk, clearly a little nervous. "They're chocolate. Kids like chocolate, right?" "Cookies." Max shot over like a rocket, drawn by the magic word. "Hey, champ, want to try one?" Nathan opened the bag. "Can I, Mom?" "You can, but just one for now. You can have another after lunch." Max grabbed a cookie and took a bite, making a face of pure delight. This is so good. Thanks, Uncle Nathan." "You're welcome." Nathan smiled, pleased. "Well, I've got a meeting in 5 minutes." He started to walk away, but Stella called after him. "Nathan?" "Yes?" "Thanks for the random cookies." Nathan gave a slightly embarrassed smile and disappeared into the elevator. The next day, it happened again. This time, Nathan showed up holding 2 cups of coffee. "Stella, do you drink coffee?" "I do." "Why?" "Well, I ordered a coffee downstairs, and the guy gave me 2. Said it was his mistake. But he didn't charge me for the second one." Nathan held out one of the cups. "Thought you might want it." Stella took the coffee and had a sip. It was exactly how she liked it, not too strong, with a touch of brown sugar. It's perfect. How did you know I like it this way? Lucky guess. Nathan answered a little too quickly. Pure coincidence. Sure, coincidence. Stella took another sip, hiding a smile. Uncle Nathan. Max appeared with a drawing in hand. Look what I made for you. It was a drawing of a tall man in a suit standing next to a woman and a small child. They were all smiling under a big yellow sun. Who are these people? Nathan asked, genuinely curious. It's you, Mom, and me. Max pointed to each figure. We're a family. The silence that followed was almost heavy. Stella felt her face get warm, and Nathan choked slightly on his coffee. Max, sweetie. Stella began. What? You're together all the time? Uncle Nathan takes care of us, brings food, just like a family. Yeah, it's a beautiful drawing, Max. Nathan managed to say, still a bit stunned. Can I keep it? Sure, I'll make another one for Mom. Max ran back to his little space, leaving Stella and Nathan in an awkward silence. He's very imaginative, Stella murmured. He is. Very. Nathan carefully folded the drawing. Well, meeting's waiting, of course, but he didn't leave right away. He stood there, looking at Stella like he wanted to say something. Nathan, is everything all right? It is. It's just that he hesitated. Are you happy here? I mean, working here? I am. Why do you ask? Just wanted to be sure after everything that happened. Nathan, you saved my life. Max and I are doing really well here. They looked at each other for a few seconds until Nathan cleared his throat. Great. That's good to hear. And this time, he really did leave. On Thursday. Stella, have you had lunch yet? Nathan appeared with a bag from a Japanese restaurant. Not yet. I ordered Japanese food, but they gave me way more than I could eat. Want to share? Stella looked at him with an amused expression. Let me guess. The restaurant made a mistake. Exactly. They mixed up the order. Nathan avoided her eyes. There's sushi, yakisoba, tempura. Sushi! Max shouted from his little corner. I love sushi. You don't even know what sushi is. Stella laughed. Yes, I do. It's that fish Grandma buys at the Japanese store. Nathan crouched down to explain. Sushi is raw fish, Max. You sure you want to try it? Raw fish? Max made a face. Yuck, I'd rather have the yakisoba. Yakisoba is noodles. You'll like it. Nathan opened the containers on the reception desk. We can't eat here, Stella protested. What if a client shows up? Evelyn can cover for a few minutes. She loved the idea of you two having a proper lunch. They sat around the desk, eating with plastic chopsticks. Max was trying to grab noodles and making a hilarious mess, while Stella and Nathan laughed at his efforts. Like this, Max. Nathan showed him how to hold the chopsticks. See? It's like picking up food with two little sticks. Why don't Japanese people use forks like normal people? Max asked, genuinely puzzled. It's tradition. Nathan explained patiently. Each country has its own customs, like how Brazil has brigadeiro and the US has cookies. Exactly. Stella watched them, feeling a warm sensation grow in her chest. Seeing Nathan be so patient with Max, explaining things in a simple way, laughing at silly questions. What are you thinking about? Nathan asked, noticing she'd stopped eating. Oh, nothing. Stella answered too quickly and went back to her food. Mom makes that face when she's happy, Max said casually. It's the same face she makes when she watches romantic movies. Max! Stella nearly choked on her yakisoba. What? It's true. You get all smiley, and your eyes get shiny. Nathan looked at Stella, who was now red as a beet. Shiny eyes? He asked, amused. Max has a big imagination, Stella murmured. No, I don't. Look, you're doing it again. Max pointed at his mom. Nathan looked at Stella for a moment. Her eyes really did have a special shine. Her hair fell naturally over her shoulder, and when she smiled like that, Nathan... Stella noticed him staring. I saw I was thinking about the afternoon meeting. What meeting? Stella asked. The meeting, Nathan stammered. With important people. Uncle Nathan, did you forget the name of your meeting? Max asked innocently. Yes, I forgot. Nathan stood up quickly. Anyway, I need to get ready. Thanks for lunch. But you brought the food, Stella pointed out. Oh, right. Thanks for sharing. And he left in a hurry, leaving Stella confused and Max pondering. Mom, Uncle Nathan is kind of clumsy, huh? A little, sweetheart, but he's nice. And he likes us. How do you know that? Because he makes the same face you do when he's around us. A happy face. Stella looked in the direction Nathan had gone, thinking about her son's words. A happy face. On Friday, Nathan showed up with hot chocolate. To help you warm up. The air conditioning is a little too strong today. On Saturday, when they worked a half day, he brought sandwiches left over from a meeting. On Sunday, even though it wasn't a work day, he showed up at the office with some excuse about forgotten documents and ended up spending the entire afternoon playing with Max while Stella organized files. Nathan, Stella said as they were leaving, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you doing all this? She listed on her fingers. The cookies, the coffee, the lunches, the hot chocolate. Well, it's just Nathan ran a hand through his hair, nervous. It's important to keep employees well fed. Productivity. You know, productivity. Exactly. And the other employees, do you bring them coffee too? The others? Nathan hesitated. The others don't work this closely with me. I see. They stood in front of the elevator, both pretending not to notice what was going on between them. Stella? Yes? Do you like breakfast? I do, because tomorrow I might stop by a new bakery, and maybe they'll have really good croissants, and maybe I'll accidentally buy too many. Stella smiled. Nathan? Yes? You're not very good at pretending it's a coincidence. I'm not, no, but she stepped into the elevator with Max. I do like croissants. The doors closed, but not before Stella saw Nathan's smile, in a way she'd never seen before, a way that made her heart race and confirmed what she had already started to suspect. Something was changing between them. Victoria Reynolds watched from the window of her new office on the 11th floor as Nathan chatted with Stella down at the reception desk. Her perfectly manicured red nails dug into her palms every time he smiled at that former employee. 3 weeks. It had been 3 weeks since Stella came back, and Victoria had seen Nathan go down to the 12th floor more times in one day than he used to in a whole month. This can't go on, she muttered to herself, adjusting her tight bun. After her disastrous meeting with Nathan, Victoria had been promoted to record supervisor, basically a fancy exile. She knew Nathan wanted her gone but couldn't fire her without just cause. Not yet, but if she could prove Stella was incompetent. A cruel smile spread across Victoria's lips when she saw the perfect opportunity. On her desk was the monthly client report, the one she had altered the night before, changing some numbers to make it look like Stella had made serious mistakes in customer service. Showtime, she whispered, picking up the papers and heading to the elevator. Stella was helping Max organize his colored pencils when Victoria appeared at the reception like a storm of high heels and strong perfume. Stella Carter. Her voice cut through the air like a knife. Victoria. Stella stood up, surprised. What are you doing here? I came to fix a serious problem. Victoria slammed the papers on the desk. You made a terrible mess of the client reports. What do you mean? Look at this. Victoria pointed at the numbers. 3 important clients complained about poor service. 2 canceled contracts because of your incompetence. Stella took the papers, confused. Victoria, this doesn't make sense. I didn't serve those clients. And these numbers, are you doubting my work? Victoria raised her voice on purpose, making other employees stop and watch. Typical. Always blaming others for your mistakes. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that. Silence. Victoria shouted. You're nothing but an incompetent who only came back because Mr. Carter felt sorry for you. That's when Max, who had been quietly in his corner, lifted his head with a confused look. Aunt Victoria, he called with the innocence typical of a child. What do you want, little pest? Why are you lying about Mommy? Victoria froze. I'm not lying. You are. Max stood up, holding a colored pencil. Yesterday, I saw you messing with those papers on your desk. You didn't see anything. I did, Max insisted, completely unfiltered. You were changing the numbers with a pen, like when I erase a drawing to make a new one. A murmur spread among the employees watching the scene. Max, dear. Stella tried to intervene. No, Mommy, she's being mean again. Max pointed at Victoria. And she also said bad words when she thought no one was listening. I did not say bad words. Victoria yelled, completely losing control. Yes, you did, Max said. She said Mommy was a he. Paused, trying to remember the exact word. An ugly word that starts with V. More murmurs. Phones discreetly came out to record the situation. And you also said you would make up lies so Uncle Nathan wouldn't like Mommy anymore. Victoria's blood ran cold. How had that terrible child heard everything? That's a lie. This boy is making up stories. I'm not. Max crossed his arms. You also said Uncle Nathan was what was it? Oh yeah. A foolish lover. The silence that followed was deadly. All the employees looked at Victoria with a mix of shock and barely hidden amusement. I, Victoria stammered, "Despérate." That's when Nathan's voice cut the silence. "Victoria, my office." Now, everyone turned. Nathan was standing near the elevator with an expression Stella had never seen before. He was furious. "Nathan, good, you're here." Victoria tried to recover her composure. "I was just explaining to Stella the serious mistake she made. I heard everything." Nathan walked toward the group, and apparently, my honorary nephew here has an excellent memory. He crouched down to Max's level. "Is what you said true, champ?" "Yes, Uncle Nathan. I don't like lies. Mommy always says lying is bad." Nathan stood up and looked directly at Victoria. "So, you altered reports to frame an exemplary employee. It's just. And you called Max a pest." Nathan's voice dropped dangerously. "A 5-year-old child." "Nathan, let me explain." "No. Enough." Nathan turned to the employees watching. "Everyone here can confirm that Victoria Reynolds just admitted to falsifying official company documents." Several nodded. "Perfect." Nathan looked back at Victoria. "You're fired. For cause. Security, please escort Miss Reynolds out of the building." "You can't do this," Victoria exploded. "I can, and I am. Forging documents is a crime." "Victoria, you should be thankful I'm not calling the police." 2 security guards appeared quickly. "Wait," Victoria shouted as she was escorted out. "This is harassment, favoritism. He's only protecting her because he's in love." Nathan stopped and slowly turned around. "You know what, Victoria? You're right. I am protecting Stella. And you know why?" He looked around at all the employees. "Because she is an honest person, dedicated, and a fantastic mother. Because she treats everyone with respect, even when she doesn't get the same respect back." Stella felt her face flush as everyone looked at her. "And if that's favoritism," Nathan continued, "then I fully own it. Some people deserve to be favored, some people deserve to be protected, and some people," he looked straight at Stella, "deserve to be appreciated." Victoria was escorted out, shouting nonsense about injustice and favoritism. When the commotion died down and the employees returned to work, Max tugged on Nathan's pants. "Uncle Nathan?" "Yes, champ? You really like Mommy, don't you?" Nathan looked at Stella, who was red as a tomato, then back at Max. "I think so, Max. A lot." "That's great." Max smiled. "Because she likes you too. She gets all silly when you show up." "Max!" Stella practically shouted. "What's wrong, Mommy? It's true." Nathan laughed. And for the first time in weeks, Stella realized maybe it wasn't possible to pretend nothing was happening between them, especially when he defended her in front of everyone, especially when he said she deserved to be appreciated, and especially when Max decided to be the most honest matchmaker in the world. A week had passed since the Victoria incident, as the employees of Carter Enterprises started calling it. The office atmosphere was lighter. People smiled more, and Stella was finally able to work without looking over her shoulder for traps. That Friday, Nathan showed up at reception with an unusual proposal. "Stella, how about we all have lunch together today in the small meeting room? Altogether me, you, Max, and whoever else wants to join. Kind of an informal get-together." Stella looked around. Evelyn had already heard and waved excitedly. "I'll bring dessert," the secretary offered. "And I'll bring soda," added Julia from HR. "Party!" Max shouted from his corner, making everyone laugh. An hour later, the small meeting room was transformed. Evelyn had brought colorful napkins. Julia filled the table with sodas and juices, and Nathan arrived with way too much pizza. "How many did you order?" Stella asked, seeing the stacked boxes. "About 5 pizzas." "5? There are 7 of us. I didn't know which ones you liked." Nathan scratched his head, embarrassed. "Uncle Nathan bought enough pizza for an army," Max commented, already attacking a slice of pepperoni. The table was lively. Antonio, the accountant, told bad jokes that still made everyone laugh. Evelyn showed pictures of her grandchildren to Julia, and Nathan couldn't stop looking at Stella. "Mommy, why aren't you eating?" Max asked, noticing Stella just nibbling on the pizza. "I'm eating, sweetheart." "No, you're not. You just keep looking at Uncle Nathan and smiling silly." Stella's fork froze in midair. "Max." "What?" "It's true." Max turned to Nathan. "Uncle Nathan, you also look at Mommy and get all red." Antonio nearly choked on his soda. Evelyn and Julia exchanged knowing looks. "Max, eat your pizza," Stella murmured, her face burning. "But I'm just telling the truth," Max insisted. Grandma always says we should tell the truth. Some truths can wait, dear, Nathan said gently, though he was also blushing. Why? Max asked with that typical childlike curiosity. Are you ashamed to like each other? Total silence filled the room. Even Antonio stopped chewing. Max, Stella started. No, Mommy. I want to know. Max stood on his chair, looking seriously at Nathan. Uncle Nathan, you like my mommy, right? Nathan looked around the table. All eyes were on him. Evelyn smiled like she was watching a romantic movie. Julia was practically holding her breath. Antonio pretended he was very interested in his pizza. Max, that's complicated. Nathan tried. Why is it complicated? Max crossed his arms. Either you like her, or you don't. It's simple. It's not exactly like that, champ. It is. Max slapped the table. Like when I like ice cream, I don't make excuses. I say I like ice cream. That's it. Stella was mortified. Max, Uncle Nathan doesn't have to answer. Yes, he does. Max turned to her. And you too, Mommy. You guys look at each other all day, bring food for each other, play with me together. If it's not dating, then what is it? Evelyn let out a soft laugh. Julia was clearly trying not to smile. It's friendship, dear. Stella explained patiently. Friendship? Max made a face. Aunt Evelyn is your friend, and you don't look at each other like people in love. People in love. Stella almost shouted. Yes, like in the movies Grandma watches. The man looks at the woman gets all silly. Then they kiss and live happily ever after. Antonio finally couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Evelyn was quietly clapping her hands. Max, Nathan said in a more serious voice. Yes, Uncle Nathan, do you really want an answer? I do. Nathan looked at Stella, who was red as a pepper, then back to Max. All right, I'll answer. He took a deep breath. Max, you asked me if I like your mommy, right? I did. So, Nathan looked straight into Stella's eyes. I think I do. Max, a lot. The silence that followed was so deep, you could hear the air conditioner running. Stella's eyes went wide. Evelyn put her hand on her chest. Julia sighed like a teenager. Antonio muttered a quiet finally. I knew it. Max shouted, jumping in his chair. I knew you liked each other. Max, lower your voice, Stella whispered, unable to take her eyes off Nathan. Why? Everyone already knew. Max looked around the table. You all knew, right? Obviously, Evelyn said. Of course, Julia confirmed. Even I, who's terrible with this stuff, noticed. Antonio added, see? Max turned to Nathan. Now you have to ask if Mommy likes you too. Max, Stella was mortified. What? It's fair, you answered. Now it's your turn. Nathan leaned forward with a nervous smile. So, Stella, do you like me? Stella looked around the table. 5 pairs of eyes stared at her expectantly. There was no way to escape. No excuse to invent. She swallowed hard. Say it, Mom, Max shouted. I like you, she whispered. So quietly almost no one heard. Louder. Max insisted. I like you, Nathan. Stella repeated, still red but looking directly at him. A lot. Evelyn started clapping. Julia said, Oh, how sweet. Antonio raised his soda cup for a toast. Yay! Max cheered. Now you can kiss and be real boyfriend and girlfriend. Max! Stella and Nathan yelled at the same time, making everyone laugh. What? That's how it works. You like each other, you kiss, you become boyfriend and girlfriend, get married, and have more babies for me to play with. More babies. Stella almost fainted. Calm down, champ, Nathan laughed. Let's take it slow. First, we talk more about this, okay? Max shrugged. But don't take too long, okay? I want a little brother before Christmas. The whole table burst into laughter. Stella hid her face in her hands, mortified but happy. Nathan looked at her with an expression she had never seen before, an expression of someone who just discovered that the impossible is possible, and that sometimes it takes a 5-year-old kid for 2 grown-ups to finally admit the obvious. Well, Evelyn said, raising her cup, I think we have something to toast to love, Julia added, to the most honest Cupid in the world. Antonio pointed at Max. To Uncle Nathan and Mommy, Max shouted, raising his juice cup. For the first time, Stella and Nathan toasted, looking directly at each other, without hiding, without pretending it was just friendship. Saturday morning dawned with a golden sun, promising one of the last beautiful days before winter came to Seattle. Stella was in the kitchen making breakfast when the phone rang. Hello? Hi, Stella. It's Nathan. Her heart skipped a little. Even after the public confession on Friday, it was still strange to hear his voice outside of work. Hi, how are you? Great. Listen, today is a beautiful day, and I was thinking, do you guys want to go to Discovery Park with me? Maybe have a picnic? Stella looked out the window. The sun was really inviting. Max, she called, do you want to go to the park with Uncle Nathan? Yes. Came the immediate answer from the bedroom, followed by the sound of bare feet running down the hall. Can we bring the frisbee? You can bring the frisbee. Nathan laughed on the other end. I'll bring the food. Are you sure? I can make sandwiches. Leave it to me. I know a place that makes amazing picnic baskets. An hour later, Nathan parked in front of Stella's apartment, driving a dark blue SUV. Max ran out to greet him even before Stella finished locking the door. Uncle Nathan, I brought the frisbee and the ball. Max showed the toys like they were treasures. Perfect. Champ. Nathan ruffled the boy's hair. Hi, Stella. Hi. They looked at each other for a moment. That kind of look from people still getting used to the new situation between them. You look beautiful, Nathan said softly. Stella had chosen a simple floral dress and a beige cardigan. Nothing too fancy. But she had taken special care. Thank you. You look. She looked at him. Casually dressed in jeans and a light blue shirt. Different. Not in a suit. Better or worse? Different in a good way. She smiled. Hey. Max appeared between them. Are you going to keep staring at each other all day? Or are we going to the park? Discovery Park was perfect. Families spread out on the grass, kids running, dogs playing, and a stunning view of the bay. Nathan had really gone all out. The picnic basket was full of gourmet sandwiches, fresh fruit, natural juices, and even decorated cupcakes. You went overboard, Stella said, admiring the food laid out on the checkered blanket. I wanted it to be special. It is special, she assured him. Max, of course, was more interested in playing than eating. Let's play frisbee, he announced, already running across the lawn. Hey, eat something first, Stella shouted. Later, Mom, now it's playtime. Nathan stood up, holding out his hand to Stella. Shall we? He's right. It's time to play. The next 40 minutes were a mix of laughter, joyful shouts, and healthy competition. Max was surprisingly good with the frisbee, though his throws were completely unpredictable. To Mom, he shouted, throwing the disc the wrong way. Stella ran after the frisbee, stumbled on a small hill in the grass, and fell, sitting down, laughing. Are you okay? Nathan ran over to help her. I'm fine. Stella laughed so hard, she could barely speak. I just hurt my pride. Nathan reached out to help her up but instead sat down next to her on the grass. The view from down here is interesting. It is, Stella agreed, still laughing, very low. Max came running back. Mom, you fell. I did, dear, but I'm okay. Is Uncle Nathan going to take care of you? I will, Nathan answered, looking at Stella with a gentle smile. Good. Max threw himself down on the grass between them. Now let's make grass angels. Grass angels? Nathan asked. It's like snow angels, just without snow. Max lay down and started moving his arms and legs. Come on. Stella and Nathan looked at each other and, after a moment's hesitation, lay down on the grass too, making imaginary angels, while Max laughed wildly. You guys look like big kids, Max said. Sometimes it's good to be a big kid, Nathan said, looking at the blue sky. After the grass angels, they returned to the picnic blanket. Max attacked the cupcakes like a lion while Stella and Nathan talked about everything and nothing. Can I ask you something? Stella said, peeling an orange. Of course. Why have you never married or dated seriously? Nathan thought for a moment. I guess I never met the right person. I always focused a lot on work, and the women I met, well, they seemed more interested in my money than in me. And now he looked directly at her. Now I found someone who met me without knowing who I was. Someone who treated me like a regular person under a food truck awning. Stella felt her face warm. Nathan. And there's more, he continued. I found someone who comes with an amazing little boy who taught me how to play Superman in the hallway. Max, focused on his cupcake, looked up. Are you talking about me? We're talking about how special you are, Stella answered. I know. Max shrugged and went back to his cupcake. Nathan and Stella laughed. It was impossible not to melt over his simplicity. The sun started to tilt in the sky, casting a golden light that made everything even more beautiful. Max was tired of eating and now lay on the blanket, fighting sleep. Looks like someone will need a nap when we get home, Stella said, running her hand through her son's hair. It was a perfect day, Nathan said softly. It really was. They sat side by side, watching Max almost dozing off, when Nathan turned to Stella. Can I tell you something? Sure. I was scared. Of what? Of messing everything up. Of not knowing how to be this. He gestured between them. It's been a long time since I allowed myself to feel something like this. And now I don't want to run away anymore. Stella felt her heart race as she realized he was getting closer. Their faces were just inches apart when, "Ew!" Max shouted, making them jump apart immediately. You're kissing like in adult movies, Max. Stella blushed. We weren't. Yes, you were. I saw it. Max sat up. Fully awake now. You were making those faces people make right before kissing. Nathan burst out laughing. He's right. We were. So what? Max asked. Why did you stop? Because, Stella stammered, because it's awkward with you watching. Nathan finished. Honestly, Max raised his hands to cover his eyes. There, now I can't see anything. Max. Stella laughed. Come on, Mommy. Kiss Uncle Nathan. I promise I won't look. Nathan looked at Stella, who was laughing and shaking her head. He's not giving up, Nathan murmured. Not at all, Stella agreed. So Nathan moved closer again. So, Stella, he whispered. And finally, there on the grass at Discovery Park, with Max not looking but obviously peeking through his fingers, Stella and Nathan kissed. It was a soft, sweet kiss, full of promises and possibilities. When they pulled apart, Max was clapping. I knew you two would get together, he shouted, jumping on the blanket. I thought you weren't looking, Stella said, still dizzy from the kiss. I peeped, Max admitted, laughing. It was beautiful. Now you're real boyfriend and girlfriend. Nathan took Stella's hand, fingers entwined. I think so, he said, looking at her. I think so, Stella agreed. And there, in the middle of the park, with Max celebrating like it was New Year's, something new officially began. A few days later, the Carter Enterprises event hall had been transformed. Golden lights hung from the ceiling. Elegant tables decorated the room, and a small orchestra played soft music in the corner. It was the company's annual party, a gathering of employees, partners, and investors to celebrate another year of success. Stella adjusted the navy blue dress she had bought, especially for the occasion. It was her first time attending a company social event, and she was nervous. Mommy, you look beautiful, Max said, perfect in his little suit Nathan had insisted on buying for him. Thank you, sweetheart. You look very sharp, too. Max had been officially invited to the party. He's part of the team, Nathan had said, when Stella protested it wasn't appropriate to bring a child to a corporate event. Uncle Nathan. Max waved when he saw Nathan approaching, looking stunning in a black tuxedo. Hi, champ. Nathan bent down to greet Max before turning to Stella. You look wow. Thanks. Stella smiled, feeling that flutter in her stomach that had become constant in the 2 weeks since they officially started dating. Mommy, can I go check out the dessert table? Max asked, already eyeing the impressive sweets on the other side of the room. You can, but don't overdo it, Stella called as he ran off. He's going to be the star of the party, Nathan commented, watching Max enthusiastically greet every employee he passed. He loves being the center of attention. I guess he gets that from someone. Nathan winked at her. The party was in full swing when Evelyn appeared beside them. Stella, you're glowing. And Nathan, she looked between them with that knowing smile she'd had since they went public. You make a beautiful couple. Thank you, Evelyn. Stella smiled, still getting used to people talking about her and Nathan as a couple. By the way, Evelyn turned to Nathan. It's time for your speech. What speech? Stella asked, curious. Every year, I give a thank you speech, Nathan explained. Nothing big. Nothing big? Evelyn laughed. Last year, you spoke for 5 minutes, and almost everyone fell asleep. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Evelyn. A few minutes later, the lights dimmed, and someone tapped the microphone on the small stage in the center of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, our CEO, Nathan Carter. Applause filled the hall as Nathan took the stage. Stella watched from the crowd, proud, while Max had managed to get a front-row seat between Julia from HR and Antonio from accounting. Good evening, everyone, Nathan began, his voice echoing through the room. Every year, I come up here to talk about numbers, goals, growth, murmurs of agreement from the audience. But this year, Nathan paused, his eyes finding Stella's. This year, I want to talk about something different. About people, about family, about second chances. Stella felt her heart race. There was something different in his tone. You know, I built this company from scratch. What you may not know is that I was raised by a single mother. A respectful silence took over the room. My mother worked 2 jobs to support us. I remember seeing her come home exhausted, but always with a smile for me. She taught me that dignity isn't about money, but about character. Stella felt tears welling up. Nathan had never told her this part of his story before. A few months ago, I witnessed something that brought back these memories. One of our employees was fired for bringing her son to work when the babysitter didn't show up. Murmurs spread across the room. People looked around, trying to understand where Nathan was going with this. At first, I didn't know about the situation. But when I found out, Nathan paused again. When I found out, I saw my mother in that woman. I saw courage, determination, unconditional love for a child. Max, in the front row, was paying attention like an adult, even if he didn't fully understand what was being said. This woman could have skipped work. She could have made excuses. But she came to work because she was responsible, because she needed to support her family. Stella felt tears running down her face. Several people in the room started turning to look at her, putting the pieces together. Stella Carter, Nathan said her name clearly into the microphone. You taught me that leadership is not about power. It's about protection. It's about lifting people up, not tearing them down. The applause started slowly, but grew louder. Stella was too emotional to respond. And Max Carter. Nathan smiled at the little boy in the front row. You taught me that honesty and joy are the most important qualities a person can have. Max waved happily at the stage, making the crowd laugh. So today, I want to announce some changes in our company. Stella held her breath. First, Stella Carter is being promoted to administrative coordinator. With all the benefits and responsibilities the position requires, the applause exploded. Evelyn shouted, "Finally!" loud enough for everyone to hear. Second, Nathan continued, raising his voice over the applause, Carter Enterprises is setting up a scholarship fund for employees' children, and the first recipient will be Max Carter, with a full scholarship from elementary school through college. This time, the entire room stood up in an ovation. Stella was openly sobbing, hands on her face, unable to believe what she was hearing. "Mom," Max shouted from the front row, running toward her. "Did you hear? I'm going to get a scholarship to study." Stella bent down to hug her son, both laughing and crying at the same time. Finally, Nathan's voice cut through the celebration. "I want everyone to know that Stella and Max are not just an employee and dependent of this company. They are my family." The silence that followed was full of emotion. Then, as if on cue, the whole room burst into applause, cheers, and whistles. Nathan stepped down from the stage and went straight to Stella, who was still hugging Max. You really did this?" she asked through tears. "I did, and I'd do it 1,000 times more." "Uncle Nathan?" Max threw himself into his arms. "Does this mean we're really family now?" "It sure does, champ. Real family." Stella looked around the room, employees smiling, some crying with emotion, all applauding. Evelyn was sobbing on Julia's shoulder. Antonio was discreetly wiping his eyes. "I don't know what to say," Stella whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Nathan replied, kissing her forehead. "Just stay forever." "Forever?" Max asked, still in Nathan's arms. "Forever," Nathan confirmed. And there, in the middle of the party, surrounded by people who were already almost like a second family, Stella understood that this was truly the most important moment of her life, not just because of the promotion or Max's scholarship, but because she had finally found where she belonged, because she had finally found her home. 3 days after the company party, Nathan showed up at Stella's apartment with a mysterious proposal. "Wear something comfortable. We're going for a little ride." "Where to?" Stella asked. Curious. Surprise. Max was spending the weekend at his grandmother's house, so it was just Stella and Nathan. He drove for almost an hour until they reached Kubota Garden, a stunning Japanese garden on the outskirts of Seattle. "Nathan, what a beautiful place," Stella exclaimed, looking at the wooden bridges over small ponds, the perfectly cared-for trees, and the flowers that created a fairy tale scene. "I used to come here as a kid with my mom. It was our special place." They walked hand in hand along the winding paths, talking about everything and nothing. The afternoon sun created a play of light and shadows among the leaves, making everything even more magical. "Stella." Nathan stopped on a small bridge over a pond where golden koi swam lazily. "Yes? I need to tell you something." The serious tone in his voice made Stella turn fully to look at him. "All my life, I thought family was something I would never really have. After my mother died, I convinced myself I was meant to be alone. Nathan, let me finish. He smiled nervously. Then a brave woman showed up with an amazing little boy, and suddenly, I understood what I'd been missing. Stella felt her heart race as Nathan knelt down on the bridge. Stella Carter, you and Max are the family I always dreamed of having. You taught me how to laugh, to play, to love, without fear. Tears were already running down Stella's face when Nathan took a small velvet box out of his pocket. Will you marry me? Will you build a real family with me? Yes. Stella answered before even seeing the ring. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Nathan stood up and kissed her right there on the bridge, while the koi swam below and the golden sun embraced them. 1 month later, the wedding was intimate and perfect in the same garden where Nathan had proposed, under an arch of white flowers and green leaves. They exchanged vows in front of 50 loved ones. Max was the cutest, proudest ring bearer in the world, carrying the rings on a little blue pillow and shouting, "It's now." When the pastor asked if anyone objected to the marriage, Evelyn cried more than the bride herself. Julia filmed everything. Antonio gave an emotional speech about true love and second chances. And when Nathan kissed Stella as husband and wife, Max shouted, "Now we're official. We're a real family." Days later, Stella parked in front of Carter Enterprises and smiled when she saw the scene that had become routine. Nathan waiting at the door with 2 cups of coffee, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Good morning, Mrs. Carter," he said, handing her the coffee and kissing her softly. "Good morning, Mr. Carter." "Mom," Max shouted from the back seat. "Hurry. You're going to be late for the kiss of the day." They laughed. Kiss of the day had become Max's official term for their morning greeting. "Come here, little troublemaker." Nathan opened the car door for Max to get out. "I'm not a troublemaker. I'm the coolest son in the world." "That's true," Stella agreed, hugging the 2 most important men in her life. Days later, Stella felt that familiar dizziness. "Nathan," Stella called, finding him in the living room flipping through reports. "Yes, love? I need to tell you something." Something in her voice made Nathan drop the papers immediately. "Is everything okay?" "More than okay." Stella smiled, sitting beside him on the couch. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then Nathan picked her up and spun her around the room. "Really? Really?" Stella laughed, dizzy with happiness in the spin. "Max!" Nathan shouted. "Come here, we have news." Max came running, still in his pajamas. "What? Did someone die?" "No one died," Stella laughed. "Someone is going to be born. You're going to be a big brother." Max's eyes got wide, processing the news. "Is there a baby in Mommy's belly?" "Yes." "Yay." Max started jumping around the room. "I'll teach them how to play Superman." At the first ultrasound, Stella and Max got a surprise. "There are 2 girls," the doctor announced, smiling at the couple staring amazed at the screen. "Twins?" Nathan whispered, unbelieving. "Twins," the doctor confirmed. Max, who insisted on coming to the appointment, looked confused at the screen. "Where are the babies?" "There are those little spots, dear," Stella explained, pointing at the screen. "Oh." Max thought for a moment. "Can I name them?" "We can talk about that." Nathan laughed. "How about Supergirl and Robina?" "They're girls, Max." Then Supergirl and Wonder Girl. Months later, the birth was long but smooth. First came Ava Carter. 3 minutes later, Emma Carter arrived. Nathan held 1 daughter in each arm, crying without shame, while Stella watched from the bed, exhausted but glowing. "They are perfect," he whispered. Max, who had spent the night in the waiting room with Evelyn, finally got to meet his sisters. "They're so tiny," was his first comment. "All babies are small at first," Stella explained. "Can I teach them how to play Frisbee when they grow up? And how to play superheroes? Also, how to press buttons on the phone." "No way," Nathan and Stella shouted at the same time. Stella looked at Nathan and the kids and said, "This is the family I always wanted. And you are the most wonderful dad and husband." Nathan, emotional, smiled and kissed her. The months that followed were a whirlwind of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and the kind of joy that only a growing family could bring. Stella and Nathan settled into their new roles as parents of 3, with Max taking his big brother duties seriously. He'd sit by the twins' cribs, reading them his favorite superhero comics in a dramatic voice, convinced they understood every word. "Ava's gonna be Supergirl, and Emma's gonna be Wonder Girl," he'd declare, holding up their tiny hands like they were already flying. At Carter Enterprises, the changes Nathan had introduced became a cornerstone of the company's culture. The kids' space on the 12th floor wasn't just for Max anymore. Other employees started using it when childcare fell through, and it fostered a sense of community that boosted morale. The scholarship fund grew, with several employees' children applying, and Nathan made it a point to personally review each application. Stella, now thriving as the administrative coordinator, brought her knack for organization and warmth to the role, streamlining processes and earning praise from clients and colleagues alike. Victoria's absence left a noticeable gap, but it was one the team filled with positivity. Evelyn, Julia, and Antonio became Stella's unofficial cheerleaders, often stopping by the reception desk to share a laugh or a story about Max's latest office antics. "That boy's going to run this company one day," Antonio would joke, watching Max charm another intern with his endless energy. One quiet Saturday, nearly a year after the twins' birth, Stella and Nathan took the kids to Kubota Garden again. Max ran ahead, chasing butterflies, while Nathan pushed the double stroller with Ava and Emma, who babbled happily at the colorful flowers. Stella walked beside him, her hand in his, feeling a peace she hadn't known was possible. "You know," Nathan said, glancing at her, "I used to think success was about profit margins and market share, but this," he gestured to their little family, "this is what it's all about." Stella squeezed his hand. "I was so scared that day I got fired. I thought it was the end. Turns out, it was the start of everything." Max ran back, out of breath, holding a dandelion. "Mom, Dad, make a wish." He handed it to them, eyes wide with excitement. Nathan looked at Stella, a playful grin on his face. "What do you wish for?" She smiled, blowing the dandelion seeds into the air. "I've already got everything I need." "Me too," Nathan said, pulling her close as Max cheered, and the twins giggled. The seeds floated away, carried by the breeze, and in that moment, under the golden sun, they knew they'd built something stronger than any company, a family that would weather any storm.